Mr. Saynor, in 2023, you delivered as forecast. For 2024, you anticipate quite a strong margin expansion. How are you going to achieve this?
Thank you so much for the question, Henrietta. Really from a number of areas. In our guidance and in the calls we've had today, we've explained the mix of our business is shifting. We're seeing a rapid acceleration of our biosimilar business. That's significantly more margin accretive than the rest of our business, so that's one part. The second, I recognize we're coming out of a large, complex organization. The opportunity to transform Sandoz into a focused generics company gives us a lot of opportunities in things like procurement, how we set up our supply networks, how we consolidate our suppliers, and how we set up our organization overall. And so what we've guided is we would see the margin evolve over the year, clearly more towards the second half, but we have a number of activities, all very focused in delivering the expansion of the margin during 2024.
The biosimilar business performed quite strongly. Can this pace be sustained?
Absolutely. I mean, let's break down where it's come from. Up until the end of last year, we'd not launched a biosimilar in Europe, and yet that business was growing mid-teens year on year. I think the previous time we'd launched a biosimilar was about 4 years ago. And clearly what's happening as biosimilars come in the market, we're treating more and more patients because the price points come down and the size of those patients continue to grow. We were the first ever company to launch a biosimilar 18 years ago. It was human growth hormone, a drug called Omnidrope. Today, we're the world's largest supplier of human growth hormone, and it's still growing. So I think there's a lot of momentum in the core, the original portfolio. And clearly on top of that, we're launching many new products. We launched adalimumab Hyrimoz in the US. That was the single biggest LOE, loss of exclusivity event in the history of the industry. We're in a strong position, and we're seeing that business growing. We've just launched natalizumab in the Nordics and now in Germany. We see the momentum there. We've just acquired Cimerli, which is a biosimilar of Lucentis in the US. We've just had an approval for denosumab, so we look to launch that in the midterm. And we're going to launch ustekinumab, Stelara, in Europe and in the US. So I think we've got a lot of launches. We can see momentum in the core portfolio, and we're in a position where we're launching more biosimilars than we've ever launched in our history.
After the first half year as an independent company, what are your challenges and what has changed for you as a company and as a CEO?
I think a lot of things have changed. Ultimately, there's no excuses. We're much more visible, both to the capital markets and our shareholders, but also I think to patients and to government. So I think as a responsible leader in this industry, their ability to help shape policy, think about how we serve our patients better is becoming much more important. Certainly from my point of view, I think the opportunity really to be a champion for this industry, think about how we can bring more products, challenge patents, challenge the originator companies, find ways to bring more products to the market is really, really exciting. And it's been an incredible journey. At the end of the day, we created the world's leading generics and biosimilars company last year. It was one of the biggest public offerings in Europe last year. Yet we're still growing the business, we're still executing, we've got great momentum, and I'm incredibly proud of the work that our associates all over the world have achieved.
In the public, there has been a lot of fear about drug shortages. Are those fears justified?
I think absolutely, but I think we need to understand where those come from. I think in a post-COVID world, I think the positive is people recognize the importance of the generics and biosimilars industry. We supply something like 80% of all the drugs used for about 25% of the cost. So we're a critical part of the healthcare systems. The challenge frequently is very few drugs. We supply 100% of those drugs. So if a competitor goes out of stock, it's very hard to respond to that quickly. Ultimately, we need to work with governments and payers to find mechanisms to make sure products are sustainable. We're investing heavily. We've just invested nearly 250 million euros in Austria. We're the only remaining antibiotic manufacturer left in Europe. These are critical medicines, and I know something that patients really worry about getting access to. So we're investing heavily to get more capacity, make sure our costs come down, and make sure we're supported by the local government. But we're looking at many areas, but this is a very complicated area, and it's something we need to continue to invest as a company. Ultimately, I don't want to be in the position that I can't supply our patients. That's really important to us. But we do need to work with governments and payers to make sure we have the right framework to make sure these drugs are available for our patients.